The RDA for iodine is 150 micrograms. The RDA was set probably close to 100 years ago, give or take a little bit. Goiter is a swollen thyroid. The thyroid sits in the lower part of the neck. It weighs about 1.5 ounces and produces about a teaspoon of thyroid hormone for a whole year. And, if a goiter is big enough, you'll see it sticking out of the neck like a softball. Big worry at the highest levels of the US government that farmers weren't going to be able to manufacture enough food to feed the growing population. About 150 micrograms, per day took care of the problem. And the animals were now procreating correctly, able to have offspring and growing to the right size. And he reported his findings, and the government, went into action. It was one of the really first public health things that we've done in our country. And they mandated that iodine be put into salt because it's an easy thing to do. And they put in enough iodine and salt to hopefully get Americans about 150 micrograms per day of iodine or close to it. Iodine's main job in the glandular tissue is to maintain the normal architecture of the glands. So if we call this the normal architecture of the glands, it's normal. The glands include the thyroid, ovaries, uterus, breast, prostate, and pancreas. And the first thing that happens in iodine deficiency in these glands is you get cysts in these glands. And if it goes on longer, the cysts become hard and nodular. If it goes on longer, they become hyperplastic if you take a biopsy of them. And the end of that pathway, the end of that continuum is cancer of the glandular tissue. And animal, test tube, and human studies have shown iodine is able to halt this progression wherever it catches it and sometimes be able to reverse it. If you think about the problems we're having today in our country, the fastest growing cancer in the United States, thyroid cancer. We're seeing 1 in 7 women in the US, adult women in the US diagnosed with breast cancer. 1 in 3 men in the United States are estimated to have prostate cancer. We have pancreatic cancer growing at epidemic rates. When I was young and in my training, you saw pancreatic cancer in people. It was in the hospital, you'd see them in alcoholics, drug abusers, and older people. You never saw it in young people. Now we got pancreatic cancer and people in their 40s and 50s. And, prostate cancer, I saw it in my training days. It was all older guys. Now you got prostate cancer of men in their 40s. Breast cancer, it was older women. Now I've been to funerals of some of my patients in their 20s dying of breast cancer, diagnosed at 18, 19 years old. The iodine deficiency is the big problem with it. I didn't start off with this. I mean, I didn't know about iodine the first 10 years of my holistic practice, and learned about it after that. And I can give you that story if you want to hear it. But if I've always said that if the government comes to my practice and says they don't like it, which they have done, but if they tell me further, you can only do one thing, and then you go back to doing straight conventional medicine. You get one, what do you want to do? I would say just give me iodine. And I think it's the biggest bang for the buck. It's a cheap nutrient. The whole country's not getting enough iodine in. Our iodine levels have fallen 50% over the last 50 years across the United States. And we are more iodine deficient now in our population than our predecessors were, than our parents' generation, our grandparents' generation, our great-grandparents' generation. And we're suffering from it with this epidemic of glandular problems.